Hello people. So a little earlier on I did a little short as I was out and about walking my dog Hollywood, and the subject matter of the short was just start. And I thought that I would actually sit down and do just a little long form video on a bit more content on about just starting and the importance of just starting. So here we go. A million years ago I had an idea to open a gym, but not just any gym. I wanted to open the most exclusive personal training facility in London. And at the time, I was living in a bedsit, so basically everything in one room, in London, and I was making a living as a professional kickboxer and a personal trainer. And there wasn't a lot of money in kickboxing at the time, and there still isn't really, unfortunately. It never really took off like the UFC, but that's a whole other story. And then personal training at the time, I wasn't really charging my value. I was just charging a very low rate, and I think possibly because I was just a little bit concerned about not being able to sell hours at the time. I was young and a little bit naive, and I wasn't pricing myself accordingly. However, things changed over time. But coming back to the gym idea, so I had no idea how to raise money, but I did sort of put together a very rough business plan. First and foremost, it was on one page, and I just went around and got all the information I kind of needed in terms of like what rent costs, a rough idea of what it would cost to kind of fit out, kind of building works, fixtures, fittings, etc. And kind of the location that I really wanted to be in. At the time, I was operating in between sort of Pimlico, Victoria, Chelsea, Knightsbridge in London. So very kind of affluent and wealthy areas. And cutting a long story short, it was actually talking to my clients at the time that got me into conversation about funding. And in those funding conversations, a couple, Bridget and Eric, if you're watching this, it's been many years, and it's actually a shame that we didn't get to move forwards with our original idea, because the original idea was basically a under 3,000 square foot facility, and it was something that was still going to be quite a large investment. I was aiming at £1 million at the time to get this going and to get it live, and this couple were very interested and very up for that. And I don't want to go too much into detail on that side of things, but then another couple sort of came involved, one of which was my client. They just had bigger pockets. They wanted to do something bigger. And my business kind of idea of this kind of under 3,000 square foot facility that was predominantly personal training and treatments kind of spiraled out of control into a 16,000 that ended up being about 20,000 square foot facility and a £13 million investment. But that's a whole other story. But my point is this: I had no idea how to get it done. I was just a personal trainer and a fighter with an idea of wanting to have his own space, his own facility to operate out of, and to service a clientele in a way that I didn't really see was happening in London in these areas at the time. There were lots of kind of like supermarket gyms. There was, at the time it was chains like Holmes Place and LA Fitness. So these were sort of, and there were cheaper gyms as well. These are sort of middle of the road clubs charging about £70 a month, which was, still quite a lot in those days, but not what I had in mind. There was a couple of hotel gyms that had sort of luxury hotels, but they weren't really proper gyms. What I was looking to do was open a facility that brought in the best of the best, the creme de la creme of trainers and therapists, and serviced a very affluent audience. The clientele would be some of the most influential and powerful people on the planet. And I achieved it. I achieved that goal. I opened the gym. You can check it out. It's still there to this day. It's now called Kicks Life, I believe. At the time, it was called Kicks Gym. And we opened in Draycott Avenue in Brompton Cross in Chelsea. And my original idea of this kind of under 3,000 square foot, around £1 million investment, kind of spiraled out of control into something that was bigger and a completely different animal, because it became a kind of members club and everything that goes with that. But I don't want to dwell on that. What I want to talk about is my meaning earlier on about just starting. You can think about things and talk about things, but action is where the power is. Action is where the growth is. Once you take action, sometimes you just don't know how you're going to get there. But once you start moving towards the goal, you'll start to become aware of the things that you need to do. You'll start to navigate towards the people that you need to speak to. You'll start to get the information that you require, and you just grow through the process. And it's because you started. And everything I've ever done has been because I haven't listened to any of the kind of like negativity around me about how difficult it is. Yes, everything is difficult, but most things have been done by other people. And if somebody else has done it, then therefore you can do it too. And so I'm a big believer that you just have to get clear about what it is you're trying to do and just take steps forwards to try and find a way to make it happen. Now, right now in my life, I've set up a production company. We're just completing our first feature film under this banner, Woodforest Studios. And I've got a slate that we'd like to move on to and make, and that will take us, having to go out and raise money, etc. And it's all very hard work, and it's not very easy to do, etc. However, it's possible. As an actor, I'm constantly throwing myself out there, looking for opportunity to add value in, looking for, casting directors and producers, etc., to put myself in front of and to read for. I have an agent, a manager who are also doing that. And as and when the opportunities arise, although it's been so dead the last year or so, which has prompted me even more so to be proactive about making my own content, so that I'm just not sat around in my head and talking about it and thinking about it. I'm actually doing it. I've been working with my acting coach in London, Michael Duval. Hey, Michael, if you're watching this, big love, for over 12 years. And I often go to workshops, classes and courses just to play, it's like going to the gym, like to exercise those muscles. But all these things take action, and you just have to move forwards. Yes, within that there's focus, etc. And sometimes you have to laser focus on something to get it done rather than try and do too many things. But if I can leave you with one thing today, anything really is possible. And once you choose to start, to take action, to move forwards, you will change. And the world that you live in changes, and how you see things changes. And it's so empowering to grow and to move forwards and to create and achieve the goals along the way. And you will feel bloody marvelous, because when you have purpose and you have focus, which all starts from starting, everything changes, I promise you. You have no time to be depressed. You have only time to move forwards and try and achieve those things that you always thought were impossible or too hard. It really isn't. You just have to start. So get out there, people. Have a beautiful day, a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on the next one.